Okay, so we've concluded the shoulder and spine setup. The next part of the rig that I'd like to take a look at is going to be the head controls. So let's jump over to the whiteboard and talk for a minute about the head control setup that we're going to implement. Now, I want the head controls to act like an extension of our shoulder controls. We've got our shoulders, and when we move our shoulders, we have either the attached version or the detached version, and we can control our spine using these shoulders. In the same way, I want to have an attached head control, which is parented to the result of that shoulder blend, or a detached head control, which is parented to our master control, and I want to use that to control another spine type bone chain that's going to go from the top of our spine to our head. So let's draw out what this might look like. So we're going to have a head control, which I'm going to have as a spherical control. We're going to have the shoulder controls that we already have. I'm just going to draw a single control, but imagine this really being the result of the shoulder control, if you will. And from there, I'm going to create a stretchy spline. It will have just 3 bones, and it will go from the top of our existing spine up to our head. Now, this is going to be a stretchy spine, but it's not going to have those animator controls like we had back in this spine. It's only going to be controlled by the position of the shoulder controls and the position of our head controls. Now we're going to have an attached head control and detached head control as mentioned before. We're going to blend back and forth between those. We're going to want to have matching on those so we can match one to the other. We're also going to deal with twisting the neck in the same way that we twisted the spine. We want to find the relative difference between our head control and the top of our spine, the shoulder controls, in terms of their twist. So we're going to find the relative difference between those, and that's going to allow us to work out how much twist do I need to apply to this part of the bone chain. So that can have twist as well. So we're going to have position and orientation on this control. We're going to have twist to worry about in terms of the bone chain. We can reuse that matching asset, that dynamic control parenting asset, in order to implement this. So in actual fact, implementing the system is going to be relatively straightforward. All of the hard work, all of the research has already been done before with our shoulders. We can now just reuse those systems to set up our head. Now it's worth noting that when we create the curve for our neck, we're actually going to create the CVs for the curve with 2 CVs down at the top of the spine. They're actually going to be point snap to the bottom and the top of that last spine bone, and then 2 CVs up here at the very top of the neck. The reason we're doing that, we're not providing animator controls, so I want to have 2 of the CVs moved by our shoulder controls and 2 of the CVs moved by the head controls, so that our bone chain between that will interpolate and curve between them. Now, in order to try and maintain just a little bit of tangency with our spine, if we have the 2 CVs at the bottom of the curve attached into the orientation of that last bone of the spine, that does give us more tangency than if we simply had the first CV start at the end of the spine, because that would mean we could move that curve in any orientation from there, and we have absolutely no tangency with the other bone chain. At least this way, when we have moderately short lengths in terms of that bone chain, we can maintain some nice tangency with the spine. Talking of lengths on the bone chain, this is going to be a stretchy spline. We're going to link it back into the lock that we already have on our master control for our spine. So we're going to enable stretchiness with a value of 1 or disable stretchiness with a value of 0. But hopefully you can see this is going to be a very similar setup to our spine. It's probably a slightly more simple setup than our spine, because we don't have the animator controlled spine controls to worry about, and we don't have to worry about blending rotate X on those spacers for those controls, because we're not going to have those for our neck. So with that, that is going to conclude this overview of our head controls, and we'll begin the implementation of the head controls and the neck bones in our rig over the next few videos. So that will conclude this video. Thanks a lot, everyone.